one time for the city. Yeah, same aura as before. The smoke got blowing orange laws, meaning you pursue at your own cause. Last of a breed to do it how we was taught. Gods in the rafters covering you and yours. Gather round the world's most famous battlegrounds. Infamous enough where they have it, good do you.
All right, here we go. Salute to Knicks Nation on this Wednesday afternoon. Another edition of KFTV Live presented by KnicksFanTV.com. We are 1 day away from the Knicks preseason opener in the desert out there in Abu Dhabi. And on today's show, we are going to preview the Knicks and Sixers matchup with today's guest. He covers Philadelphia sports for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Also an award-winning author, and we're going to also talk about his book, Magic in the Air, the myth, the mystery, and the soul of the slam dunk. And he is Mike Sielski, man. Salute to everybody in the chat. Hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel, man. One more day until we get some Knicks basketball, and as it looks by the New York football and baseball landscape, basketball is all we will have left. So, Mike, thanks for joining the show, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Casey. Thanks so much for having me, man.
Absolutely, man. These two teams squaring off in the desert on Thursday and Saturday. What do you make of this, new regime, this new look Knick team, if you will, under Mike Brown and some of the pieces that they brought in this year?
I'm really curious about it, to be really honest. Obviously the Knicks have a ton of Philadelphia area connections, right? It's not simply a matter of any kind of rivalry between the Sixers and the Knicks. There's Jalen Brunson, there's Mikal Bridges, there's Leon Rose, who's lived in the South Jersey, Philadelphia area for a long, long time. We have discussions at the Inquirer all the time about how much we should actually cover the Knicks because they have so many Philadelphia connections. And the reason I'm so curious this season is I want to see, and I'm sure, you or maybe some Knicks fans in the New York area feel this way too. I want to see if Tom Thibodeau drew everything you could draw out of that team, or whether by having a new coach and an experienced, accomplished coach like Mike Brown in there, whether there's another gear that the Knicks can get to, whether Tibbs was, wearing them down, or whether he actually was getting everything that he could out of that group. And that to me is going to be fascinating because, I got to cover Brunson and Bridges and those Villanova teams back from 16 and 18. I was around those guys a lot. Mm-hmm. They were so much fun to watch in college. And anybody around here in the Philly area who got to see those guys at Villanova could tell you, they're going to be really good pros. Maybe not the level that Brunson has hit, but man, they were tremendous college players, and they're a fun team to watch now in New York. I think I'm allowed to say that as a Philadelphia sports fan. So I'm really intrigued by the Knicks this season.
I think you hit the nail on the head with one of the most pressing questions here is Mike Brown going to be the ultimate difference maker with this team? And a lot is made, especially with coaches, that, okay, he was fired from this team, he's fired multiple times. But I also feel like roster composition and who you have to coach plays a lot into it. I point to the Rick Carlisle example. He's shown the door in Detroit. Larry Brown comes in. He's the difference maker. They win the championship. Ultimately, Rick Carlisle gets it back with the Mavericks and ultimately takes the Pacers to the championship. So I think roster composition and fit has a lot to do with it, and that's why the key question is, will Mike Brown be that right fit for getting this Knicks offense out of the isolation tendency, and also defensively, how does he pair Brunson and Towns in a way that kind of hides some of their defensive vulnerabilities in big spots?
Yeah, and the other kind of spice or flavor to that is that you're doing it in New York, right? I worked up in New York for 3 years before I came back to Philly and got my job at the Inquirer. Yeah. And I know that when it comes to the hierarchy of New York sports, it's the Yankees and then the Knicks. And, the Yankees are one game away from biting the dust, as you said in your intro. So
yeah.
everybody is going to be focused on this basketball team. And that's a dynamic that I don't know that maybe there are 3 or 4 other markets in the NBA that can possibly approach the scrutiny that Mike Brown is going to be under this season. And that's a dynamic too. How patient can he be? How patient will the market and the fan base allow him to be? Because I think it is going to take some time. And, is he going to get that time?
It's funny. And that's why I say, my personal opinion is that when people ask me, what do I think about Brown? I'm like, we won't know until they go through a playoffs and see how he adjusts and how, the impact of the system, both offensively and defensively. I can't tell you right off the bat that he's going to be good for the team or bad for the team. We just have to see how players gel, how they implement the system, and most importantly, I think is if they can stay healthy. I think that's a huge factor there.
Yeah, and I think that's probably part of the reason that the Knicks made this move was the idea, as we talked about earlier, that Thibodeau was kind of grinding these guys to dust, playing the same guys so much that they barely had anything left late in the season. And the other factor, too, is the Eastern Conference is so wide open, right? Like the team that came one victory from winning the title last season is not going to have its best player. So, and the team that won the title the year before that is not going to have its best player. So, if you're in Philly, you're saying to yourself, if you're like the ultimate optimist, and I know how contradictory that sounds being in Philadelphia,
yeah.
But you're looking at it and saying, boy, if Joel Embiid and Paul George can stay healthy, maybe the Sixers can make a run here. And if you're in New York, you're saying, hey, if Towns and Brunson and Bridges and these guys can be fresh at the end of the season, who knows how far this team can go.
Yeah, for sure. We certainly want to get your thoughts on those Sixers because they could be, a team that no one is talking about, no one is respecting in the East. I want to go into a former Sixer, someone who you covered last year, who you saw last year, joined the Knicks on the taxpayer mid-level exception. That is Guerschon Yabusele. What were some of your impressions of Yabusele when he got to the Sixers last year, playing in Europe prior to that, and making his way back to the NBA?
Well, I actually, Casey, got an up-close look at him in Paris. I covered the Olympics last year, and he was incredibly impressive for France. Showed a diversity to his game that I think his size, if you don't watch him closely, kind of belies. He's able to step out and hit jump shots. But he was a guy for the Sixers last season that people fell in love with, like one of the few bright spots that team had during just a miserable, miserable season. And he strikes me as exactly the kind of guy who New York will embrace, who Knicks fans will embrace. He's a dirty work guy. He plays taller than he is. Kind of an old school kind of power forward with enough diversity in his game that he can help you out. I think people in New York are really going to like him.
And what's interesting is that when he first came into the league, with the Celtics, he had two years with the Celtics, had a cup of coffee with the Celtics, but didn't really pan out. And then he goes back to Europe. Now he comes back to the Sixers last year. He's hoisting up 4 3-pointers a game, shooting it at 40% a clip. So it seems like he kind of, carved out a good role for himself in the NBA where now he fits.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, I think the Olympics helped him a lot. He was one of France's best players. And when you're on the stage like that, playing that well against the U.S. and the best players in the world from around the world, you probably feel like, okay, I can do this. I'm sure he came back to the NBA last season for the Sixers a different person than he had been in that first go-round that you talked about with the Celtics. So, look, I think if the Sixers could have kept him, they would have. They have higher priorities at this point. They're still trying to figure out, I think, exactly, even if you assume for the sake of argument that Embiid and George are healthy, exactly what kind of team can we build around these guys to actually win games? And, never mind the fact that one or both of them might not be ready for the start of the season, and even once they start playing, might get hurt again. So the Sixers in some ways had bigger fish to fry than Yabusele.
For sure. And when you mentioned the Nova Knicks, Brunson, obviously now the captain of the New York Knicks, a superstar here on this NBA stage, and Bridges and Hart. I always felt like, and this was a Jay Wright influence, coaching at Villanova, I think. I always felt like those Nova players making it to the NBA always had such a high floor. Like they were always coming in prepared, always plug and play, ready to go at any role whenever they got into the league. And it just felt like kind of that was that Jay Wright influence on these guys.
Totally was. The reason Jay retired, or at least one of the primary reasons he retired when he did in 2022, was because from what I know from being around him and talking to him a little bit and people around him, is that he knew in the new age of NIL and college basketball, he was not going to be able to coach and recruit players the way he had to build the Villanova program the way that he did. And the reason that's relevant to Hart and Brunson and Bridges is Jay would find guys who had NBA potential, but knew they were going to need a year or 2 or 3 at the college level to get to that point. And when Jay got them, everything was about you are moving with 2 feet and you are catching the ball with 2 hands and you are strong. Everything was fundamentals. So when you watch Jalen Brunson and his impeccable footwork in the post, that's a byproduct not just of his great skill and the fact he's a coach's son and a former NBA player's son and all that. It's the tutelage he got with Jay in those 3 years he was there. And same thing with a number of the things that Josh Hart does and Bridges does. Guys who are willing to just do the small things while at the same time being capable of doing bigger things. And that's all residue from that time at Villanova with Jay. And, back here in Philly, like we're kind of waiting to see what happens with Villanova because they've really struggled ever since he left. They've got a new coach from the New York area, Kevin Willard, who had been at Seton Hall. So, that program is trying to capture this very special thing that Jay had created there. And you see it now in those guys in the Knicks lineup.
Yeah, for sure. And once again, we're talking to Mike Sielski, a writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer and also the author of his new book, Magic in the Air, the myth, the mystery, and the soul of the slam dunk. We're going to talk about Mike's new book in just a bit. But right now we are previewing the Knicks and Sixers matchup as they get ready to tango there in Abu Dhabi this Thursday, October 2nd, and this Saturday, October 4th. And Mike, when it comes to the Sixers, obviously, here in New York, we know that the Knicks are being sprung up there at the top of the East. There's the Cleveland Cavaliers, who were the number 1 seed last year. But as you said, with Boston and Indiana expected to come back to the pack a little bit, I kind of look at Philadelphia as that boom or bust type of team this year. How do you guys see it there on the Philadelphia side?
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of trust in the Philadelphia area about the idea that Joel Embiid and Paul George can come back and be regular, anywhere close to elite contributors to this team. I think everybody around the team would be surprised if that happened. If anything, from a fan standpoint, I think more people are looking at the fact that this team now has Tyrese Maxey, they hope back healthy, VJ Edgecombe, who was the 3rd pick in the draft, who is getting rave reviews by everybody in the organization so far, and Jared McCain, who is injured again, just had surgery, but should be back at some point this season after getting off to a great start in his rookie year last year and then suffering an injury. So, from the Sixers are at this interesting kind of inflection point. They're no longer, I think, at the point where they are pursuing a championship first, foremost, and always. They tried that last season when they signed George. It went bad. And I now think that everybody in the organization kind of says to themselves, look, if we get 18-10 out of Embiid over 50 games, we got to take that as a win because his knees, his body's beat up, his knees are in bad shape. He's not going to be the guy he once was. And if we get anything out of George, that's a win. But the future of the team is those 3 guys I mentioned. It's looking like they're going to be kind of the center of the whole thing moving forward. Whether that's good enough to be a contender in the East or in the league as a whole, I'm not sure about. I love Tyrese. He's a great, great kid. He's a great scorer. I think he's a great 1A or a great 2. I'm not sure he has reached the level yet where he is a guy who can carry a team a la Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland or Brunson, someone like that.
Yeah, it's interesting because, as you point out, the Embiid thing is kind of a dark cloud. But on the flip side, you do have some sort of solid foundation to build on if the the eventual collapse happens when Embiid and George are shown the door, you still have a good foundation with Maxey. Edgecombe, I didn't get a chance to. I wanted to see him in Summer League. He didn't get a chance to play all that much. Right. And then, once McCain comes back, hopefully it's a tough injury, but at least they have some solid young pieces that they can say, hey, we can, potentially build on here.
Yeah, and they have to bank on that because, to be honest, Casey, most people in Philadelphia are exhausted by the Sixers. They really are. Philadelphia is a great basketball town, but when it comes to the hierarchy of the pro franchises, the Eagles are very clearly number one.
Yeah.
And especially coming off a Super Bowl and now being undefeated. The Phillies have, when they're good, people really get into the Phillies. And, here they are in the playoffs for the fourth straight year. The Sixers, in a lot of respects, are people are saying, you know what, I'm tired of this. We went through the process. It was the promise was it would net us years of excellence and championships. And the team didn't even get past the second round of the playoffs. Embiid's been this star-crossed figure who, when he's healthy, is incredibly great, but has been hit by bad luck and bad conditioning and, maturity issues and things of that nature. And so whatever, like when they get good again, we'll pay attention. So it's a different dynamic than New York with the Knicks. People care about the Knicks all the time. I'm not sure that's the case in Philly with the Sixers.
I can sense that Philly fatigue, even all the way up here, up the turnpike, man. I can feel it. I can feel it, and you could kind of see it with the body language of the fan base, and like you said, they're just not trusting. But with the Embiid thing, you see in the videos, he's working out with the team, he's practicing. Very good PR by the Philly organization, by the Sixers.
We're used to that. I mean, most Sixers fans have post-traumatic stress watching those Embiid videos because they used to see Ben Simmons videos.
Oh, yeah.
With him jump shots and was like, oh, Ben's got a jumper now. And he never did.
What do you think the plan is? I mean, he did meet with the media and he's saying, hey, we're kind of going to take this one step at a time. But, I mean, for me, if I'm on the outside looking in, I would say, why not just load manage him until second half of the season? After All-Star break, bring him in and see what you can do there.
Nothing seems to have worked when it comes to Embiid and his health. They've been load managing him. They've tried playing him every night. I mean, some of this is just bad luck. I mean, twice he's had his face broken by teammates.
Yeah.
So we're talking about stuff like that. He had Bell's palsy. Some of this is bad luck. Some of this is the slight difference between a superstar at the absolute highest level of the sport and a guy who is just this much below that guy, And Joel's a great player. We're going to look back in Philly. We're going to look back on his time here and say, oh, it was wonderful. It's a shame it didn't work out for him. But right now in the moment, I think a lot of people look at him and say, it could have been better, man. Like, if you had stayed in shape, if you had committed yourself to the degree that a guy like a Kobe or a LeBron or a Steph or a Duncan had, Joel he doesn't seem to have that mentality. And this is harsher than I mean it to be. Mm-hmm. But there have been guys in this league who would slit your throat and drink the blood. And he has not been one of those guys.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean he doesn't want to win. It doesn't mean he's not competitive. It just means that he hasn't been at that level. And I think you need that kind of guy to win a championship.
I agree. You couldn't have been surprised with the Paul George arthroscopic knee surgery. I mean, I was out in Vegas. I saw him at the Backstreet Boys concert. 2 days later, they're like, "Oh, well, he just had an arthroscopic knee surgery."
You see that, and you're like, "Oh, well, at least he'll address it in his podcast, right?" Yeah. Like that's, and that kind of stuff doesn't play in Philly.
No, it does not.
All. It does not play at all. You have to at least pay lip service to the idea that you are giving everything you have toward being back on the court or the field or the rink. You have to pay lip service to caring as much about your team and yourself and your fortunes and your team's fortunes as the fans do. And if you don't, the fans will see right through it. They would rather be lied to in the right way than told the truth in the wrong way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, as a Cali guy, he doesn't understand Philly at all.
No,
with
you're
the
right.
podcast and the comments, you got to understand certain things can't be said in Philadelphia because he's going to ultimately get run out of town. So I think he's headed that way. Also in the news, our guy Quentin Grimes. Today's October 1st. It is Quentin Grimes Day. Will the two sides come to a new deal? Will he sign the qualifying offer at 8 point something million? Does he get a balloon offer at 1 year, or does he get the long-term deal that he's looking for?
I'd be a little surprised if he got the long-term deal at this point. I think they're leaning a little bit toward the Sixers are toward flexibility, and I think I'm kind of spitballing here, but I would be surprised if he got that long-term deal, just because this is a franchise that's been burnt by committing to guys and not having it work out. Whether you're talking about Simmons or George, superstar supposedly kinds of guys.
Yeah,
I'm not sure they want to do that for a Quentin Grimes, who had a very nice year for them last year, but is he going to be the difference between you winning a championship and not?
I miss him here, man. I like the pick when they first got him. I like the potential. He showed some potential when he started with the team and, fell on some hard times, and then he had some tough injuries. But as his archetype, I always liked the type of player that, Grimes was trying to be. And then he had some outstanding months there with Philly, especially in March and April. He finished the year very well. But I see both sides to this. I see Grimes trying to bank in now, where you look at this roster now. Prior to the McCain injury, it got a little bit crowded there with Edgecombe and McCain. You get George and Embiid coming back. So although Grimes, has the potential to raise his ceiling, where does he really fit there in that hierarchy? And then on the Philly side, it's just like you said, it's like, can we trust this type of production? What is his role going to be with this crowd? And, can we afford to make those long-term investments, especially in the second apron era?
Yeah, it's always a dicey proposition, right? Like they signed Kelly Oubre a couple years ago, for instance.
Right.
And the first thing out of everybody's mouth was, well, Oubre put up empty numbers in Charlotte because there wasn't anybody else around him. So he's taking a ton of shots. He's not a high efficiency player, et cetera, et cetera. And Oubre's been pretty good as a defender, scoring when he can, that kind of thing. But Grimes is in a similar situation. As you said, how much do you trust what he did last season for a lousy team that needed points wherever it could find points?
What did you make of, you have Edgecombe, you got guys. I like the Jabari Walker pickup. I was hoping the Knicks would have taken a splash on him on a two-way deal. Do you feel like the Sixers upgraded their bench as compared to last year if you get Grimes back?
Yeah, I do. They went old last year. They kind of took for granted that they were going to make the playoffs and signed a bunch, Caleb Martin signed a bunch of veteran guys who they thought were going to help them come April and May. And as it turned out, those veteran guys couldn't get them in the playoffs once Embiid and George got hurt. So they kind of went the other way. And again, this leads to this kind of lack of confidence and trepidation amongst the fan base, which is you guys seem to be, there's no identity for the Sixers. This has been their overriding problem really since Allen Iverson left. Around Philly, we cling to that 2001 run that the Sixers went on when AI was the MVP, and there was this unique construction of this team where it was Allen taking all the shots and just a bunch of guys who played defense around him. But the bigger thing is that team knew who it was. And the Sixers have not had that any season since. Even during Embiid, they tried bully ball 1 year with Al Horford. And Embiid, they tried surrounding him with three-point shooters. They tried building a team with the best starting five in the NBA when you had Redick and Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler. And nothing has worked because they don't know who they want to be and what they are. And I think, this season, if it goes bad, is going to be a continuation of that problem.
Where do you see Nick Nurse and his future with the team?
I think a lot of people were disappointed by Nick's performance last year. That sense that he was the kind of coach who was supposed to be able to make chicken salad out of chicken you-know-what. And yeah, he definitely had chicken you-know-what in terms of a roster last year, but there was a sense that this team could have been better, could have played better defense. So again, it's still a prove-it sort of situation with Nick Nurse. This is the guy Daryl Morey got to hire. So let's see. And Morey's in a similar situation too, where there's a whole lot of skepticism about him and his tenure so far, because he made his bones in Houston and, as everybody knows, couldn't get the Rockets to the finals despite being innovative and relying on the three-point shot. And I think a lot of people are asking, okay, you were able to turn the Rockets into a contender by exploiting the three-point shot and kind of changing the game. What's your next move now?
Yeah.
Are you just trying to do that again? Like, can you build a team after everyone has figured out that three-pointers are worth 50% more than two-pointers, and everybody's trying to do what you already pioneered? So what's your next move? And we're all still waiting on that.
Is there another team in the East you have your eye on this year, especially the way things are kind of constructed with Boston, Indiana coming back to the pack? Who else do you like?
I think Cleveland. I mean, I know it's kind of a chalk pick, but they were really good last season, and they're deep. Orlando as well. You know, they seem to me to have the look of a team that could make a major leap. You know what I mean? Like, guys start hitting their prime kind of at the same time. You know, you get Paolo and those guys. I would look at those two teams. I'm sure the NBA doesn't like that because you're relatively two small market teams without quote unquote big name guys. But I like those two squads.
There you go, man. Once again, we're talking to Mike Sielski of the Philadelphia Inquirer, just previewing this upcoming weekend's matchup in Abu Dhabi between the New York Knicks and the Philadelphia 76ers. And the reason I also brought Mike onto the show was that earlier this year, he dropped a new book, man, Magic in the Air, The Myth, the Mystery, and the Soul of the Slam Dunk. And Mike, you had a previous book on Kobe Bryant, The Rise, Kobe Bryant and the Pursuit of Immortality. This book is very unique, man, in the way that you approached it. What was the inspiration behind putting this one together?
I appreciate that, Casey. Yeah, I wanted to do something a little bit different. The book is not 300 pages of YouTube highlights of dunks. I felt like the dunk gave me an opportunity, like a vessel, to travel through the history of basketball in a really unique and interesting way. It could take me from the playgrounds of New York and cities around the country to college basketball, to the fact that the dunk was banned for 9 years from 1967 to 1976, and then the rise of the ABA and the NBA and the sport as we know it today. And it let me get into history and culture, the civil rights movement, film, and the question of race and stereotypes. And, there's a whole chapter in there about the movie White Men Can't Jump, and the fact that Mac McClung is now the three-time defending slam dunk champion. There are chapters in there about some great New York City playground legends. There's Dr. J, there's Lou Alcindor, there's Michael Jordan. It's just a really fun, I think, kind of romp through basketball and history, and I learned a ton doing it, and I think anybody who picks it up will learn a ton too.
Yeah, we've had a few authors on this show already who, and that's what I like about those type of books, is that it's an interesting take on the intersection of basketball and culture, the confluence of the rise of basketball at all levels, whether it's the NBA, international, women's, and beyond, and that confluence in our society today. And so, as you said, this was an interesting spin in how we look at the dunk and its influence on our society, as you said, on race relations, the civil rights movement, and the game itself. What was, when you were doing your research, I mean, this had to entail a ton of research. What was that wow moment? What was the biggest surprise in terms of the stories that you uncovered? That's
a really good question. I uncovered this story about a guy named Joe Fortenberry, for instance, who was on the 1936 U.S. Olympic team. 36 was the first year that Olympics had basketball, and he's the guy who kind of is credited with spreading the idea of the dunk nationally. He was a 6'8" dude from Happy, Texas, and he happened to be in a semi-pro team that played at Madison Square Garden in an exhibition game, and a sports writer saw him dunking the ball in the pregame warm-ups and wrote about it, and that's kind of how the term got coined. But you go from that to somebody like Jumpin' Jackie Jackson, who played in the Rucker League and dunked on Wilt Chamberlain. And it became this mythical moment in playground summertime basketball around the country, really. Jumpin' Jackie's the guy who dunked on Wilt. And he ended up playing in the Eastern League and on the Harlem Globetrotters and somebody like that. Somebody like that was really fun to learn about. And then one of my favorite chapters to do was the one on the dunk being banned in high school and college basketball. Because the starting point for that was the 1966 NCAA championship game between Kentucky and Texas Western, right? The Texas Western team that starts 5 black players. And I talked to David Lattin, who scores the first basket in that game by dunking the ball in the face of Pat Riley, who's the star player for Kentucky on that team. And Don Haskins, the coach at Texas Western, had told Lattin, the first time you catch the ball anywhere near the basket, I want you to try to dunk it in the face of whatever Kentucky player is nearby. And kind of unspoken in that command from a coach was, you are a big black guy. These are all 5 short white guys. Play on all the stereotypes that go into playground basketball. And it kind of was the springboard, not just for the dunk being banned, which was an incredibly stupid racist idea, obviously, but that's what kind of allows playground ball to start to really filter up to the college and NBA and professional levels. And everything that's wrapped up in that. Like, you could write a PhD thesis about the ideas of masculinity and race relations wrapped up in the idea of posterizing somebody. And all of that was totally fascinating to me.
And as you said, in the backdrop of all the, socio storylines with that game itself, the profile of that game, that one moment kind of speaking to that. So that was very interesting. And then you also highlight here that the NCAA wouldn't let you research, dig into the archives on the ban. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, the NCAA is a private institution, so it's not like I can use the Freedom of Information Act to get to any of their archives, but I wanted to look through all their correspondence during the time that the dunk was banned, looking for like a letter or a memo or something tangible on paper that would say, this is why we're banning the dunk. At the time, people gave a lot of excuses. Oh, players are getting injured. It'll cost too much money to fix the broken rims and broken backboards. But let's be honest about why they were doing it, right? They were doing it because more and more black players were starting to take over the sport. And there was this sense of, we can't allow this to happen. This isn't real basketball. And the sport will get away from us, the people who have their hands on the levers of power in the sport. So I wanted something tangible to be able to show that this is why the NCAA did this. And they wouldn't allow me to see any of their archival material at all. And so I printed the entire email exchange between myself and the NCAA in the book. And, people can read that and make of it what they will.
Wow. That is crazy, man, but great stuff, man. Who was your favorite interview for the book?
Oh, that's a good Dr. J.
Yeah,
the fact that I spent a half hour on the phone with Dr. J. I got to ask him, at one point I said to him, Julius, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson get an awful lot of credit for resurrecting the NBA when they entered the league in 1979. Of course, they had played in that college championship game, Michigan State and Indiana State. I said, what do you think about that? First words out of his mouth were, I think that's all bullshit. And then he started to tell me, he talked about the influx of players from the ABA into the NBA. But more than anything, he wants credit, and it's deserved credit, for being the guy who really took the NBA and started the NBA on that upward climb into popularity. Because more than anybody else, Julius really married the street game, the playground game, with mainstream culture. The everyday Joe, the suburban white dude from Poughkeepsie could watch Julius play basketball and see that he was flying through the air and dunking the ball and say, you know what, his teams win all their games pretty much, and he's a great guy and he's a good teammate. I guess that it's okay that all these players, these black players with their showmanship and their fancy way of playing are taking over the sport. He was really an important transitional figure in that regard, and he doesn't get the credit he deserves.
Absolutely, man. Did you ever ask him about the biggest what if the Knicks would have acquired him?
I didn't ask him about that because, the ABA was falling apart. And once he bolted for the NBA, once the Sixers signed him, or bought him basically from the Nets for 6 years, $3 million. That was it. The league was falling apart. So I did not ask him about the Knicks. I'm a Philly guy at heart, Casey, so I had to stick to the
Sure. But it is interesting because he oftentimes is a forgotten name when you think about the greats and you think about the greats of the game. I mean, I hold him in high regard because he grew up out here in Long Island and New York and represented us very well. But when you take a look at it, if you take the 30,000+ points, if the NBA and ABA combined stats, kind of like the MLB kind of ingested the Negro leagues, if you combine NBA ABA, he's 10th all time. He's right up there. And as he said, it quoted in the chapter, how many ABA players were in that 1977 All-Star game? 11 or so?
Yeah, I think it was of the 24 players in that All-Star game, I think 13 of them were from the ABA. And your point is 100% on about the fact that the NBA and ABA don't combine their stats. If they did, Julius would absolutely be regarded as a top 10 player. Nobody would think twice about including him amongst the all-time greats because he won multiple championships in the ABA. He won another one in '83 with the Sixers. He got to the finals with the Sixers 3 other times and couldn't get it done. And he and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar were the stars of the league in the late 70s. It was the two of them, and basically everybody else, was a planet to those two sons. And he doesn't get the credit he deserves for that. He's still kind of regarded as, everybody acknowledges he's like the coolest cat around. But when you listen or watch ESPN or Fox Sports, it's very rare that anybody mentions him as an all-time great player.
That is true. In terms of chapter composition, you kick off with Ja Morant. Any thought process behind that in your chapter about Ja Morant?
Yeah, I wanted to start with a present-day player. And I wanted to start with a guy who who was regarded as a great dunker now, but who kind of captured the ambivalence about dunking in the sport now. Because the sport at the NBA level has become so much about the three-point shot and so much about analytics and so much less about artistry and spontaneity and the things that in the 70s and 80s, when you're as old as I am, kind of drew fans to the game. And Ja doesn't take part in the slam dunk contest. He's had some stuff off the court that made him interesting and kind of fascinating. So I ended up going to Murray State. I spent 3 days in Murray, Kentucky, talking to people about him and his time in college, because that was really when he made his rise as a star. But that's mostly what I was interested in. Like, I would much rather, as a fan of basketball, give me AI, Kobe, Ja, taking and often making really difficult shots. I will take that every day of the week, as opposed to PJ Tucker standing in the corner shooting corner threes, because that's the more efficient shot. And the sport within the last year has kind of, I think, inched a little bit more towards the spontaneity, but it's to me, it still has a ways to go to get back to that exhilaration that fans used to feel. And maybe we'll never recapture it again, because you can only see Michael Jordan and Dominique Wilkins dunk spectacularly, for the first time and have it seem fresh. That's part of the problem with the dunk now. It's not as popular because we feel like we've seen everything. And I wonder in the book if we may have to raise the rim just to make the sport, give that sport back its sense of wonder, in the sense that these guys are really doing something that's absolutely superhuman and spectacular.
Yeah, so do you think that that's a potential alternative? Or I mean, the content seems all but finished right now. In my opinion, I'm not so sure where they can go with this. I mean, I do appreciate McClung and the creativity that he's brought to the dunk contest. He's putting it all on the line as a G League player, so you can respect it. But what do you think? What do they need to do to bring fan interest back into the dunk contest?
Yeah, I think they need to raise the rim, to be honest. It doesn't look like a challenge. Part of the reason people love watching Mac McClung dunk the ball is because to look at him is to think he can't dunk the ball. He's a 6'2" white dude, and he is breaking every stereotype that human nature says we have about basketball. So that when you watch a 6'8", 6'9", 6'10" dude do it, it's like, well, big deal. Like, he doesn't have to jump to do it. It doesn't look particularly difficult. It doesn't look challenging in the way that it looks for Mac McClung. So if we're going to restore some kind of sense of wonder and awe to the dunk contest, they're going to have to figure out a way to raise the rim. And I'm not even ruling that out, Casey, for the sport as a whole. I mean, there aren't many guys like him, But if Victor Wembanyama is going to be a prototype for what the league is going to be, guys who are close to 7 feet or over 7 feet, who can jump and run and move the way that he does, a 10-foot high basket is not going to contain him. It's going to be a different sport. And, human evolution is happening. The athletes are getting bigger and stronger all the time. So whether, I know it sounds silly to say this, but I think at some point the sport's going to have to confront that. Maybe they need to widen the court. Maybe they don't necessarily need to raise the rim, but something's going to have to change sooner or later, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Dwight tried it. Dwight tried it on the 12-foot rim in his dunk contest. So there's certainly a point there. Was there anything, I know in terms of creating a book and all the research that went into this, was there anything that didn't make the cut that you kind of wish did? Was there like a battle with the editor to get some information in there?
Yeah, I did a long interview with a guy who was kind of like a traveling dunker. He's part of like a troupe that travels around and goes to high schools and county fairs and small towns, and it's like a diet version of the Globetrotters. So that didn't make the cut. I didn't put a lot of Daryl Dawkins, Chocolate Thunder, in the book because I didn't see where I wanted the book to be about more than just dunking. I wanted each player or moment that I featured in the book to have kind of a bigger meaning in terms of advancing basketball forward and some connection to culture or history. And I didn't see where Chocolate Thunder fit into there other than dude broke some backboards and had colorful nicknames. So I'm sure there are people who bought the book and thought like, oh, this is going to be all about Daryl Dawkins and are disappointed that it isn't. But I couldn't put everybody in there. So, those are the two obvious ones, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it's all said and done, man, what's the biggest takeaway that you want people to take from this book?
I think people who are even casual basketball fans or don't even care that much about hoops will find something fun and interesting in the book. The way I structured it, and I did this on purpose, was you could pick it up and page to like chapter 6 and read chapter 6 from beginning to end, and then go back to chapter 2 and then to chapter 13 and so on. Or you could start it from the beginning and read it all the way through. And that's kind of how books, I think, have to be now, because not as many people read anymore.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of fun stuff in there about hoops, about culture, about history. Like I said, I think the word romp kind of comes to mind. Like you will, even if you like basketball just a little bit, you will really enjoy reading the book. And
as you said in the book, each chapter can stand alone. Or you can read it straight through, which I appreciate. And what I also appreciate is that, in this new cycle that we're in 24/7, it's so easy to forget about yesterday, the things that happened yesterday, because we're always, by the second, the last thing is old already, and you forget about it, and you're on to the next thing, we're on to the next thing, to debate about, fight about, all of that. At least you have this that you can put into an archive, like, especially for the younger generation, man, that really need to, like, understand the history of the game, and you hope to influence them to appreciate that.
Casey, I just turned 50 in June, and there is stuff that I feel like happened yesterday that is at top of mind for me at all times because I'm an old man, where nobody younger than me knows this, that yesterday was ancient history. And you are 100% right, man. That was one of the things I wanted to do in the book, was to write about stuff that I thought was interesting and that I felt like younger basketball fans probably didn't know that much about. And that was one of the great joys of doing the book. I love going back into archives. I love digging through newspapers.com. I love talking to people who remember hoops and sports and society the way it once was. And it's one of the great joys of being able to do what I do.
There we go, man. One of the asks that I request from each author that comes on is that they give away an autographed copy of the book to one of our loyal Fanchise Channel members, man. So if you're interested, I'm putting you on the spot. I forgot to ask you this.
That's nowhere. I'm happy to do it, man. I got more than enough copies. I can send one. Just send me the person's name and address, and it's off and gone.
There we go, man. So we're going to do this. We're going to run the contest later on today. But, Mike, definitely appreciate the time, man. And we'll always be tapping in. And hopefully we could circle back later on in the season and see where these two teams are.
Sounds good to me, Casey. Thanks so much, man. Really enjoyed it.
No problem, man. All right. That was Mike Sielski. Salute to everybody in the chat. Mike, thanks again. You can catch Mike, follow Mike on the Philadelphia Inquirer or at Mike Sielski, Sielski. There on Instagram and on Twitter, man. Good author, man. Good conversation, man. We broke that Knicks Philly, talk about his book, and of course, as always, man, whenever we have authors on the show, they want to talk about the book. You guys at home will get one. So my Fanchise channel members, make sure you guys stick around to the end so we can talk about it. We're gonna wrap up today's show with Knicks news. Stick around. Don't leave. We got more to discuss, man. We have more to discuss. Lots going on in the Knicks verse. Tomorrow, big game. We'll have play-by-play, post-game, first game of the year. I got to drink some tea and stuff, man. I got to get ready. But I'm hyped, man. I'm ready to go. The squad is out there in Abu Dhabi. Looks like they're having a good time. Let me play a couple of joints here, man. The squad looks like they're having a great time in Abu Dhabi. So I've been enjoying some of the content that's coming out there, whether it's from the Knicks. Starberry's got a couple of things up here. Let me put that on there. Hang on. Salute to everybody in the chat. Live and direct, CP the Franchise here on this beautiful Wednesday here in New York. Weather kind of cooled off a little bit here in New York, man. I'm not really too happy about that. I'm not too pleased about that, gang. But we gotta do what we gotta do, man. We gotta do what we gotta do. Where's Starberry stuff here? Okay, this is Starberry's page. Let me mute this because it might get a little loud. There's Starberry. They're all on camels. You got Starberry, Ewing, and OG. Starberry, Ewing, Allen Houston, and OG on camels. Oh, man. This is hilarious.
Going from the what to the PG. Oh, God, here we go. We about to try it.
Look at OG. look at the captain, Patrick Ewing. I just said bomba.
Doing something different. We got big OG and no B.
Oh, man.
Up here.
This is squad group picture.
Habibi, getting it right, baby.
Falcons, they got the Falcons flying around. All right, so the squad looks like they are having a grand old time out there in the desert. Shout out to Starberry. You saw Starberry, Patrick Ewing, Allen Houston out there riding the camels with OG. So they look like they're having a good time. And this is the group picture that they took out there in the desert. So in that group picture, you got all 21 members of the Knicks team, and according to Coach Mike Brown, all 21 are expected to play on between Thursday and Saturday. So what he told Stephen Bondy, shout out to Steph, Mike Brown telling Stephen Bondy that he would expect the starters to play around one half of basketball, and then he'll get the rest of the players out there, which is good. I think that's a good approach, is a good idea. Mike Brown mentioned the fact that, look, they travel all the way out there. He wants to make sure everybody gets a chance to play. They had a good week of practice. Everybody's going hard and going in. So, yeah, get everybody in there playing. I see no need to play, Brunson, Towns, OG, all those guys. I see no reason to play those guys extensive minutes. They had a long season, and we'll talk about Josh Hart's comments on that. They had a long season last year, dug into playoff time. I say, ramp those guys up midway through the preseason. But for now, get some of the younger guys, some of the guys trying to battle for the training camp battles. What's going to be interesting to see is how he sprinkles in Brogden, Shamet with some of that core. He talked about his core 10 that will play, but I wonder, does Brogden get in there with those guys, or does he kind of get in with the B team and C team? I'd like to see the former. So that's going to be something I'm going to be interested to watch tomorrow, is at what point does Brogden get in there, who he's playing with, who's Deuce playing with, who's Clarkson playing with, Yabusele as well. I'm going to be watching that, and Shamet. And then you have your two-way guys, your two-way contracts. You get those guys in there, some of your rookies. So I think that's a good approach in terms of playing time between Thursday and Sunday, because like I said, you really don't need the starters to be playing all that much minutes. Okay? And then speaking of minutes, Mike Brown also spoke on how he's going to handle the minutes distribution this year as opposed to how Tom Thibodeau handled it last year. And some of the quotes from, this is from New York Post with Stephen Bondi, some of the quotes from Knicks coach Mike Brown. He said the biggest thing is trying to make sure you watch everybody's minutes instead of trying to chase games. There may be some games you may throw in the towel early. All right, so that is completely anti-Tibbs, who would have the starters in there up by 20, and he's chasing the dragon to make sure that they got the win. So they're going to handle this a little bit smarter, according to Mike Brown. He also says it's important to win, but you have to also understand, hey, I want to keep this guy's minutes here, instead of trying to extend everybody's minutes. Because if the season is long, we don't want anybody getting worn out by the end. He understands the Tibbs sentiments, and he's seen Tibbs his entire career. So Mike Brown understands the knocks on Tibbs, and he wants to do things differently. So let's see if he puts that into practice. We do know that it's going to be a priority for this team to tap into the new depth. Clarkson, Yabusele, Deuce, all those new guys on the bench. Tap into that depth. So, you're getting guys in there and you're getting a good rotation. Mike Brown also said that he wants to extend the bench 9, 10 deep. He's not afraid to do so. Organization wants more depth. They want to lean on the depth. So Brown is going to be very cognizant of that. And then he also talked about how that impacted the 2016 Golden State Warriors. He was assistant coach on that team that broke the 73-win record. He said it kind of caught up with them in 2016, and from that point on, that was when Steve Kerr was like, I'm not going to chase games anymore. If we get it, we get it. But I got to make sure guys like Stephen Curry, if we want him to play 35 minutes or average 35 minutes a game, then that's what he's going to average. It was one of those things where I gave, so that was Steve Kerr. That was Mike Brown translating for Steve Kerr and what, that 2016 Warriors team went through. On top of that, Josh Hart was also quoted by Stephen Bondi. Steph's out there in Abu Dhabi as well. And he spoke to Josh Hart, who, kind of talked about the minutes and load management and so on and so forth. And this one kind of drew some criticism or a lot of commentary from Knicks fans, where Hart said here, he talked about the playoffs. He says, I think I played well. I think I played well in Detroit, played well in Boston. With Indiana, I just didn't have nothing left. So that was Josh Hart. And, the opinions from fans are kind of, polarizing. Some fans, I'm reading some comments here on Instagram, says, hey, that's a cop-out. Other fans blaming Tibbs. You worn them out over the course of the season. You playing these guys too much. Josh Hart leading the league in average minutes played last year. So is there some truth there? But as he said, he played well enough in Detroit. He played well enough against Boston. Against the Pacers, I think all these guys got worn out. And I think that was a combination of the Pacers' play style, the fact that the Knicks went through some grueling physical battles before they got to the Pacers, and then they had to play this high-octane team that also played physical. So I think to a man, the Knicks were worn down. Even, you look at Brunson in Game 6, or Game 5, rather. Game 6 was worn down there. Only 15 points in that Game 6 in the loss against Indiana. And what's also a good point is for a lot of those guys, that was the farthest they had been in terms of postseason basketball. It's a whole new season in which there's a physical, mental toll. So the comments, the reactions to Josh Hart's statement there was some kind of like, we're not trying to hear that. Others like, this is on Tibbs. Where you guys fall? Where do you guys fall in the chat? But bottom line, look, the goal is to make it to the postseason as healthy as possible, but there are no guarantees. We saw Kenny Atkinson do his best to balance the Cleveland lineups. Don't play Spider as much. Don't play this guy. Don't play that guy. By the time they got to the postseason, they were as banged up as anybody. And some of those injuries, whether it was the Garland toe injury or the DeAndre Hunter when he got slammed by Mathurin, that was a dirty play. Some of those happened in the playoffs. So it's kind of like you just never know. But either way, you're going to have to put that effort in to make sure that your squad is as healthy as possible. So that's very interesting to me because, you know, as you guys have been watching this show, you kind of know one of the common questions that I have is, how does Brown balance the need to keep these guys fresh, balance the minutes, but also making sure that they're they're headed in the right direction as a result, as it relates to their offensive and defensive chemistry, and that they're also winning games and living up to their potential. Because while a lot of us want to say, well, all I care about is the postseason, if they walk into the postseason with the 4th seed and having a roller coaster season, I'm sure the narrative is going to change. We know that. So how he balances that is going to be very, very interesting. Salute to Captain F in the chat says, I just landed in Abu Dhabi. Salute to Captain F. We're going to need you. We're going to need you for post-game reactions. We're going to need the Abu Dhabi Arena report from somebody on the Discord. So make sure you guys are joining the Discord. And some of you guys were saying that you had some trouble joining the Discord. I just got a new link. I think something went awry with the previous Discord link. So I'm going to drop the current link to the Discord in the chat right now. And I'm not sure if TM had updated it on the automated bot, but I just dropped the Discord link in the chat. So make sure that you guys are tapping into that. All right, who else we got in the chat? Captain F, salute to you guys, man. If you guys want to call me up in the KFTV Discord, you know the line's always open for you. Call me up. Let me know your thoughts. How you feeling about this game coming up? Shout out to Mike Sielski. I really enjoyed today's guest, man. Where can we watch the actual game? MSG. Oh, Jay Sniper, I see your comment. We're gonna talk about that too, man. We're gonna talk about that. Let me drink some water, man. A lot to talk about. All right, let me salute some Franchise Channel members in the building. Salute to you guys. Shout out to Eric Horn, $5 super chat. Speaking of where to watch, he says YouTube TV got rid of the NBA package. I'm sick right now. Wow, what happened? Why'd they get rid of the NBA package? We got to make sure everybody is on board here. And just remember to make sure you guys have your calendars, your digital calendars, so you make sure that you don't miss an episode of Postgame Live of KFTV, and especially don't miss the game. So make sure you guys are signing up for the digital calendar. They're going crazy off the shelf. Free resource for you guys to have a digital notification. Whether you have an iPhone or Android phone, you get a digital notification notifying you of when the Knicks game is. And inside the notification, you get the link to Postgame Live, the link to buy tickets using our SeatGeek code for a discount, link to watch parties if we're having one that night. It's a free resource for the fans. Make sure you guys tap into that. So shout out to Eric Horn. Okay, who else we got here? Shout out to Santana. $5 super chat says the time is now. Let's go Knicks. It's our year. Okay. Shout out to Santana. We got another super chat here. $5 from Eric Horn again. He says people don't know the Gusto Dunk was by a malt liquor company in Philly. Okay. Shout out to Eric Horn out of Mississippi for dropping some Philly knowledge. Also, shout out to Vincent Huang, Franchise Channel Member out there in Taiwan. Drops a message here. It says, our team's looking real good in the desert. Let's win that game tomorrow. Let's get it. Shout out to him. We got to shout out our guy, man. Shout out to the Rhyme Animal Chuck D. $20 super chat at number 1 on the chat leaderboard. Says, October shape under Tibbs always had us conditioned. Brown gets it, I think. Let's go. And also shout out to the Rhyme Animal Chuck D. Ace Fight Out Super Chat says kids are gonna dress up as Josh Hart's finger this Halloween. They just might, man. They absolutely just might. And also shout out to the Rhyme Animal Chuck D. Did you guys see Chuck on the Jimmy Kimmel show? Live from Brooklyn. Public Enemy in the building. Salute to Chuck D, man. Salute to Flav.
Enemy.
Salute to the OG, man. Still killing it.
And I just want you to know that Public Enemy always got your back. But you're looking for the same thing. It's a new thing. Check out this array.
Let's go.
Next to the base. Come on. Turn up the radio. They're claiming I'm a criminal. But now I wonder how. Some people never know. The enemy could be the great guardian. I'm not a hooligan. I run the party and clear all the madness. I'm not a racist. Preach the team to all. Hey, number one. That boy run about the gun. I wasn't licensed to have one.
Let's go.
They see me, fear me. I'm the
Rhyme Animal Chuck D, man. Still doing it. Still doing it. Don't believe the hype. Let's go. Salute to the Rhyme Animal Chuck D, man. I love it. This man's work ethic is second to none. And shout out to Flav, man. So salute. So they had themselves a great week as we get ready for Knicks basketball. All right, what else we got here? Okay, let me get to Yuri. Yuri on the Discord. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
How we doing, man? What do you think?
Good. Hello to everyone in the chat.
Yep.
Pleasure to see everyone, hear everyone. Tomorrow's the day, man. We're ready. We're ready.
Let's go, man. What do you think?
I'm excited.
What are some of the things you want to see here, man?
I want to talk about the ball movement we just saw that just got posted online. You know, with the Knicks, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I missed it. I missed that ball movement that we've been missing. We have not seen that kind of ball movement since the first 20 games of the last season, before it went back to all ISO. So I'm interested to see how Mike Brown's gonna utilize the lineup with Josh Hart. Again, we don't know what the lineup's gonna be, but I'm assuming if he had Hart in the starting lineup, with that, I want to see how it looks under Mike Brown's vision instead of Tibbs' vision. So I'm not going to be mad if he starts Hart for the preseason, because we're trying to figure out how the lineup's going to go for the regular season.
Yeah.
So there's that.
There you go. And Bondi, Steph Bondi posted a picture today, you know, as it relates to the starting lineup. Well, this morning, out there in Abu Dhabi, is Josh Hart with the starters. But either way, Mike Brown said, look, whichever way he goes tomorrow is not set in stone as it relates to the rest of the season. And that's how it should be. We should be evaluating early on in this stage. But I'm going with Mitch. You know I'm going with Mitch.
Yeah, you go with Mitch. I even said I thought Deuce in the lineup as well. But now that I'm thinking about it, CP, the reason why I like this lineup is because, like, it's interchangeable for the fifth starter. You can have Mitch in the lineup. You can have Josh Hart in the lineup. You can have Deuce in the lineup. Hell, probably Joel Yabusele in the lineup as well if you want a second five out lineup. The variety that the Knicks can do with the starting lineup, matchup-wise, can be really codependent.
I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. It's something that they need to tap into. And, hey, you know, it's not always, as we know, it's not always about who starts. It's about who finishes, what the matchups dictate. Like, again, you're going up against Cleveland. I'm going Twin Towers for Twin Towers. Let's go. I'm going with the equalizer, Mitchell Robinson.
Mitch.
The bully. He's the Cleveland bully. He's going to say, Evan Mobley, you got Defensive Player of the Year. That's because I was injured half the year.
I would love to see Mitch in a starting lineup against Cleveland. And that's another thing, too.
Yeah.
I've talked to people about we haven't had Mitch in a lineup for the whole year. You know, and this is where I'm going to throw shots at Tibbs. Tibbs wants to say, oh, we didn't have our starting center for the whole year, yada, yada, yada. Well, okay, since he came back, why the hell wasn't Mitch in the starting lineup the minute he came back? I get it, minutes restrictions, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to criticize him for that. But the minute Mitch was in the lineup and the minutes restrictions, he got used to it. The minutes restrictions should have been off from the get-go. once he got settled in.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. I'm not so sure what the approach there was, but I'm going to be interested to see how they handle it this year. You know, even though I do want Mitch starting, I don't necessarily want him in crazy, northward close to 30 minutes. No. They're going to have to work with the medical team and figure out a good medium to get Mitch good minutes as a starter, but also you got help. You got Yabusele, you got Huck Porty, you have Towns that you can put at the 5. Like, you still have guys that you could roll in there, so you don't need to lean on them early in the season. Still manage those minutes accordingly to make sure that you can get Mitch at his best in money time.
I was thinking 25 minutes for Mitch.
Yeah.
25. You play him 15 minutes for the first and second quarter. You play him 15 minutes for the first and second quarter. Then you give him 5 minutes in the third quarter, right? Mm-hmm. And then you let him play out the entire fourth quarter. Just keep him around a 25, 28 minute range.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be the entire fourth quarter. You could have him play 5 minutes in the first quarter just to set the tone. Play him 10 minutes in the second quarter. Play him 5 minutes in the third quarter just to, make sure you keep the momentum in the third quarter. And just, you could do that, or you could play him the entire fourth quarter to close it out.
Yeah. It's good points, man. Good points. So we'll see what happens tomorrow, man. But appreciate the call, man. We'll talk tomorrow, man.
I'm ready.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
I'm ready.
So to our guy Yuri in the chat, man. Rate that call in the chat. 1 being trash, 5 being facts. What do you guys think, man? Okay. All right, so Yuri's looking forward to that. I'm just reading Steph Bond. He dropped some more stuff here. Steph's out there in UAE. Okay, he's got an interview here with Malcolm Brogdon. Kind of reading this and reacting live. Malcolm Brogdon didn't sign with the Knicks, sit on the bench. Here's a quote from Brogdon. Says, I view myself as having a skill set and being versatile enough player to crack any rotation in the league, so I expect to do that here as well. 2 years removed from winning Sixth Man of the Year. Established two-way guard, can run the offense, earned roughly $130 million. Damn, Brogdon got some bread in his career. He talked about the last 2 years. He didn't play much. Definitely difficult for me. I've been a really good player in the league. I've been a good vet. Going to tanking teams, going to teams that are rebuilding, it's been tough. But for me, it's all about being a guy who embraces a challenge, whether it's being a good vet on a young team or coming into a really good team like this. And, of course, being a good vet, but also being able to contribute something on the court. Bondi says Brogdon said it 3 times in our interview. He expects to play. This isn't a veteran mentorship gig, but it is also complicated. The guard rotation, very complicated. You got McBride, you got Clarkson. That's going to be one to watch. Brogdon expects to play. So whose minutes are coming down and what are the combinations that you're going to put out there to make everybody happy? Okay, what else we have here? As we know, Dottie McBride, Kolick, Huck Porty, some of the possibilities for a trade. There's no way I'm trading McBride. Forget that. I'm good on that. Brogdon also says, I'm another ball handler. You have Jalen. He's a superstar in the league, but with every superstar in the league, they need other guys on the team to help take pressure off of him. And I think I'm a guy who they'll be able to trust to make good decisions for the team and run the offense at times to get him easier shots. It's a different role. First time I took a role like this is when I went to Boston. I played the 6-man roles. It's just about embracing it. Coming to a team here that is one step away from the finals. All they need is a little bit more. Made a coaching change. They made some changes. They brought some guys, but the core is the same. They just need a little bit more support. So me, I plan on being one of the pieces to support them. That means supporting the court. All right, so that's Malcolm Brogdon, man. What do we think about his quotes? It's good stuff. It's good stuff from Brogdon. He knows what he wants to bring to the team. He wants to contribute, and he's here to play. We know this. He's definitely here to play, and I think he's going to get a spot should he come out of this preseason healthy, which is why I also don't think that they make any decision in regards to the final 2 spots or the final spot, really, until after the preseason, and then see, because by that time, we're going to know, is there a market for Kolick? Is it Dottie that gets traded? I think the Deuce trade scenario, I think that's more of a dark horse, but you never know. I hope not. Wouldn't make too much sense to me. But let's see what happens there. Close out the show for us, Rambo.
Hey, Malcolm Brogden, relax.
Yo.
Okay, we like the energy. Yo, okay.
Hang on, go ahead. Testing 1, 2, 3. We got to make sure that we got you in here clearly, sir. Let's check the audio.
Hold on, let me.
Yeah.
Put it on speaker.
Oh,
am I clear?
You sounded better. Go ahead, sir.
All right. Yeah. My apologies, guys. My apologies. We still in. We're in training camp still, preseason.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm gonna get right. But Malcolm Brogden, relax. Okay, that's what I want to say because I just heard everything. I love the energy, Malcolm. But you got to understand, you're coming in here and you're gonna play whatever role we need you to. We don't need you to worry about if you're gonna be breaking rotation. We're gonna put you in there. Don't worry. We're gonna get you right. All right. But I need you to come in here with low egos, man. That's the first thing. We got the game tomorrow. Hey, can anybody tell me where I could watch it on my phone? If you're on the chat, just drop it down on the chat for me because I need to make sure I'm tuned in on my lunch break at that. You already know. I'll stay in compliance. Bro, I'm excited, though. I know everybody's talking about the offense, the ball movement, and I think the two people that are going to benefit the most from it, and I'm really, really hoping, is Mikal and OG, man. That's what I'm most excited to see right now. I want to see, because at times last year it seemed a little stagnant. We complained about, man, Mikal didn't have no plays drawn up for him. It was just a lot of iso ball. So I'm just really excited to see how their games are going to develop under this whole new system that we have with our offense, man. And how that's going to also translate back on the other end, on the defensive end. Man, I'm just excited, bro. I just got to tap in. I just seen you guys in here. I hit the show a little late. I missed the whole thing. But
replay gang, man. You replay gang, man. It's all good.
Replay game. All major podcast formats. I like Spotify. Spotify's cool with me.
Okay.
I'll get on there and listen at times. I put the headphones in, on the dull day at work. So, there's no reason to miss a show. So when the season's starting, now you know.
There we go, man. Rambo from Tampa. We'll check you out tomorrow, man. We'll hear from you tomorrow. And hopefully you get to catch the game, man. You let us know what your key takeaways, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Hour.
Let's go. There we go, man. He kind of cut out. He was battling the connection issues, but he did the best he could, man. Rate that call in the chat, good people in the chat. 1 being trash, 5 being facts. Rambo from Tampa. What do you guys think, man? Yeah, I'm hype. Man. We're getting ready to give away the book. To the Fanchise Channel members. Get ready. Hang on, let me get my giveaway music going here. And for those of you that don't know, hang on. I gotta find this here. There we go. What we do here is whenever, we'll do giveaways. Most of the time on Post Game Live, we'll do giveaways, especially after a win. But whenever we have good guests here or authors here and we're promoting their book, we're talking about their book, we always give one away to one of our loyal Franchise Channel members. That's what comes with your monthly subscription is you get first priority in the chat. You get first priority in terms of callers on the Discord. Rambo is a member. And then you get to participate in our giveaway trivia. Okay, salute to Roland Convo, just joined us. Salute to Roland Convo. All right, so I'm going to filter the chat for Franchise Channel members only. And then once we get through the giveaway trivia, we'll reset the chat back so that everybody can comment. Okay? So right now, we're going to filter the chat, and we're going to put on slow-mo mode because you got to get ready for today's trivia question. And just to give you guys a hint so you can kind of prepare, these trivia questions, you kind of get a hint by the topics of today's show. And on today's show, obviously, we're talking about Knicks versus Philly going up against each other in Abu Dhabi. And one of the topics we talked about one Quentin Grimes. Well, ladies and gentlemen in the chat, my good Fanchise channel members, Quentin Grimes was selected with the 25th pick in the 2021 NBA draft by the Los Angeles Clippers. Those trade rights were traded to the New York Knicks. For the book, autographed book, Magic in the Air, The Myth, the Mystery, and the Soul of the Slam Dunk. Tell me, who was selected number one in that draft? 2021 NBA draft. Who was the number one pick? Winner in the chat gets the book autographed. We've had several multi-time winners of the KFTV trivia. Who's going home with it? Give me the number one pick of the 2021 NBA draft. Okay. Okay. The answer is in. And the answer is Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham. That is the answer, ladies and gentlemen. And congratulations to... Let me just make sure. Let me go back. We got to go in and check in our system. A lot, there's been some controversy when it comes to these giveaways because some of you guys see that, see a person's name or you see something in a chat that will think that, that person's first. Well, that's just how, based on, the latency and the connection, that's just how the chat comes into you. But we have to check the official YouTube records to make sure that we have the right person, and we do. The winner is John Solitude 45. John Solitude 45 with the answer Cade Cunningham. Shout out to John Solitude 45. Congratulations to him. Everybody say congratulations to John Solitude 45. John, please email us, kftvmedia@gmail.com with your address, and we will get you an autographed copy of this new book. Very good book, man, and very interesting twist. Very interesting angle that Mike brought to this book, man. I really like it. Very good book. All right, so shout out to John Solitude, and congratulations. And for you guys, channel members at home, hey, you guys will have multiple opportunities to win over the course of the season. So just hang in there. Okay. All right. Great show. Moving and grooving. Absolutely. Great show. Definitely appreciate everybody for tapping in here. And we had a really good show today, man. Really happy about today's show. Good stuff there, man. Congratulations once again to John Solitude. Okay. Somebody in the chat, and forgive me, I forget your YouTube name. Somebody in the chat had mentioned RJ and wanted me to react to the soundbite from RJ Barrett at the Raptors Media Day. So hang on, let me pull up the soundbite here. Okay, here we are. And a lot of Knicks Nation did not like this comment here by RJ, by the way. A lot of Knicks Nation did not like this comment. But here we go. So RJ was asked in his media, he made a comment that, his Raptors teams, they do things the right way. And here was more of his comment about his team, and people thought he kind of threw some of his old teammates under the bus. But let's take a listen and react to it as a family, man. You know what? Let me get my hang on. This calls for worst take. Okay, we got the worst take logo up there. So in this segment of Worst Take, and Worst Take is a segment where we go around the NBA media sphere, whether it's a podcast soundbite, an interview soundbite, a blog post, or maybe even a group chat comment. And whether it relates to the Knicks, we react to that content and issue a rating, 1 being trash, 5 being facts. So on this episode, RJ Barrett, many think, took a shot at the Knicks maybe in his comments about the Toronto Raptors in his media day session. So let's listen to it and react to it on the other side. Here we go.
Hey RJ, when you mentioned being excited, like walking in here today and saying, like looking at the squad, like we got.
Hang on. I want to make sure we got proper volume settings here. Let me just make sure I turn it up. You got to do that. Okay, once again, here's RJ. Here we go.
Hey RJ, when you mentioned being excited, like walking in here today and saying, like looking at the squad, like we got a squad, you also said, and we do it the right way. And I was just curious what you meant by that, like what doing it the right way for this team is.
We don't have egos over here. Everybody wants to win, and that's coming from me, who's probably one of the most confident guys you've ever met in your life. We have players that are here with a good mindset of coming into to help the team win, and it's not just about any single individual player. I think that's what you need. So that way we can have conversations with each other. We can talk to each other like, yo, you're messing up right there, and it's no hard feelings. We need that commitment to team excellence. Passing the ball is a huge thing. When I've been on teams where the ball doesn't move and then nothing happens after that. Nobody cares. And now everybody's just every man for themselves. So it's great to be on a team where, we move the ball and we play defense and we care about each other, honestly. We're all friends, we all hang out, everything's cool. Things are just the way the Raptors do things is the right way. And I think that's why, we'll have some success.
All right. What do we guys think here, man? Rate that take in the chat. 1 being trash, 5 being facts. Was that a shot at his Knicks teammates? What do you guys think? He's not wrong. And let's put it like this. He played for how many teams? He played for Montverde. He played for Duke. He played for the Knicks. All right, so the possibilities are kind of slim in terms of what teams and who we might be talking about. But also, let's get realistic. When RJ was here, he played. Right before he was traded, he was the third option between Julius Randle, a heavy isolation player on the Tibbs system, Jalen Brunson, a heavy isolation player on the Tibbs system. We know that ball movement was not the Knicks' strong suit, as we would often complain about on this show, especially when Julius had the ball in his hands, even before Brunson got here. And RJ was stuck in a role, was stuck in terms of understanding what his role in this hierarchy was. We talked about that constantly here. So we know that ball movement was an issue. And it's also inherent when you have 2 all-stars on your team, which Jalen and Julius were when they were both here. There's a hierarchy. He doesn't have that same hierarchy with the Toronto Raptors. It's equal opportunity. Partly because they're a bad team and they have no superstars. So like he said, there's no egos. He's right on that. He played on teams where the ball didn't move. He's right on that. I can also tell you that RJ and Julius, while they had a professional relationship, it wasn't there was some friction there. So he spoke from the heart. I didn't think he was taking a shot or being petty or anything. I thought he spoke facts. What's also a fact is that RJ was another player who had tunnel vision with the ball. In that when he got the ball, most of the time you knew where he was going, you knew what he was going to do with it. I thought he got to the basket with a varying degree of success. And his offensive game was also one that was inconsistent from a decision-making standpoint and from an efficiency standpoint, which is part of the reason he got traded. However, he got traded to a team whose system allows him to be the best version of himself. And so as a result, you saw him have a great year last year. And I told you, I spoke to his pops about that at Summer League. He raved about this new system and the opportunity that he has with this team, and he's home. So while RJ Barrett is a player who many of you know, hey, I called him Broadway Barrett. That was one of my guys here. I wanted to see it work out here. I wanted to see him have success here. I'm equally as happy to see that, number one, OG's thriving here as well. The trade is working out for both teams. And the Knicks did RJ a good solid. They sent him home. And he's having a good career so far in front of his hometown fans. It's working out. It's a win-win for everybody. So, on a scale of 1 being trash, 5 being facts, I'll give it a 5. I didn't have any issue with the comment from RJ. He struggled being the third wheel in an isolation-heavy offense with 2 All-Stars. And at the same time, in that role, he wasn't all that impactful. That's just the reality. And he's having a much better time, a much better fit in Toronto, where he can have the usage that he needs to be successful and an impactful player. So what do you guys think in the chat, man? 1 being trash, 5 being facts. I'm all right with it. I'm okay with this one, man. But what do you guys think? And again, if you guys have suggestions, we try to make sure that we're up to speed on everything happening around the league in terms of the conversations and stuff. But if we miss anything and you want us to react to anything as it relates to Words Take, send it our way, kftvmedia@gmail.com, or you can send us a DM on Twitter or Instagram. We'll be on it, man. We'll do some investigative journalism here. Okay? All right. Let me make sure I didn't miss anybody else. Nah, I think we got it there, man. Okay. Well, great show, man. Great show, everybody. Remember, we back here tomorrow. All right? So we will be back here tomorrow. Most likely play-by-play. Just look out for the links. Check your notifications on your calendar, or check your notifications on YouTube. We'll also send an email blast out, so don't worry. We're going to make sure that you guys are notified when we make content for tomorrow's game between the Knicks and the Sixers, okay? Salute to all of our Franchise Channel members once again. And salute to the replay gang. Remember that the show's available in audio podcast format. No reason to miss it. You can catch us on all major podcast platforms. All right, so once again, congratulations to the book winner, John Solitude 45. My 2 cents, you missed the giveaway, man. You missed the giveaway. And make sure you guys check it out, man. Magic in the Air, the myth, the mystery, and the soul of a slam dunk by Mike Sielski. Great show, great session, great cipher, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm out of here, man. Enjoy the rest of your day, man. Stay blessed, everybody. Peace.